All right, everyone, welcome to TALRadio Presents. This is your host, I'm Ken Ouderkirk, and each week we highlight an executive that's making a real difference in their community. And I'm really looking forward to speaking with our guest today, Jacob Edmondson. Jacob serves as the Chief Development Officer for Miracle Hill Ministries, which is located in South Carolina. And they are the largest provider of homeless services in South Carolina. So they have 4 rescue missions, 2 addiction recovery facilities, a foster care community, a foster care program, 18 transitional homes, food ministry program, 8 thrift stores, and an auto sales operation. And on any given day, they're helping out over 650 people in care. Just a couple stats. In 2021, they served over 3,000 men, women, and children, provided over 10,000 emergency shelter beds, served over 300,000 meals throughout their programs. I mean, wow. That's a lot of help that they're giving out to their community there. Mm-hmm. But Jacob, just as a way of getting started, great having you with us today. But just as a way of getting started, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on. And we realize we're part of something bigger that God's doing. Yeah, so a father of 4 little boys. One of them is we fostered and then adopted through we fostered him through Miracle Hill and then adopted. And my brothers and sisters fostered and adopted his brothers and sisters. That might come out later on in our conversation. That's been an interesting experience. But married my high school sweetheart. We've been together for years and years. And I always thought, when I was going through high school, my father had a disease called retinitis pigmentosa, an eye disease. And my intent was always I was going to be an ophthalmologist, wanted to discover the cure to this rare eye disease. And somewhere around college, the Lord just said, nope, I've got other plans for you. And so I went into full-time vocational ministry, thought we were going to be missionaries in Africa, man. And the Lord has other plans. And so he brought us here to Greenville, South Carolina. This is home for me. So brought me back home. And I've been serving here ever since he brought us back to the area. And I love it. But I have a heart for ministry. I'm passionate about seeing people who are hurting experience restoration. I just have a longing to see people whole, so love what I get the opportunity to do here.
That's awesome. And, you really made that bridge over to, hey, I really want to help, to now I'm helping. And, part of our background here at TALRadio is that we really want to bring people that are thinking about, how can I help? And it's interesting to come across and speak with people that just said, you know what, life could have taken me in a bunch of different ways and I could have done the 9 to 5, but I'm going to go this direction and really look out to helping my community in a more direct way. How did you come to, like you said, it could have been missionary work, which is very good at, that's direct work in Africa. But, with an operation like this, how did you come to be the Chief Development Officer at Miracle Hill?
Yeah, that's a great question. I keep asking that myself. No, it's funny. The Lord has certain things that He kind of grooms in us that we don't see while it's happening, and then later on we're like, oh man, maybe that's why I have that trait or that characteristic. I mentioned, that I thought we were going to be missionaries overseas, and I grew up a pastor's kid. And, okay. Part of being a pastor's kid was you kind of go one of 2 ways. I feel like pastor's kids do. They get a bad rap, right? They're like, yeah. And granted, I have a sibling or 2 that kind of went the opposite way and they've come back. But you have the one who kind of runs and wants to taste the world. And you have the other that wants to, and this would be me. I always wanted to, I don't know. I wanted to please my father. I enjoyed being the pastor's kid. But with that comes, hey, when people speak to you, you speak back to them. You love all people. You pick up things in ministry along the way, just being a pastor's kid, that I find myself using today, just relational skills that I was just taught. When someone spoke to my father, my father would seek people out to speak to them because he loved them. So I think some of that is just ingrained in a pastor's kid at an early age, maybe. But we thought we were going to be on the mission field, and then when that didn't work out after seminary, we came home, and I actually was working in the thrift stores for Miracle Hill. I had a little bit of experience with Lifeway Christian stores. If you're, Lifeway still works digitally. They closed all their stores, I think. But and that mixed with church ministry, mixed with this missional desire. I don't know why, but the Miracle Hill said, "Hey, well, let's invite this kid down from North Carolina, and he can serve as one of the managers in our thrift stores." And so through a process, I came down here and I was serving as a store manager, and the Lord He had to tailor me in that position, because at first I thought, man, I really want to work in ministry, not thrift store, because in my mind the thrift store was a means of revenue for Miracle Hill. But the Lord there was a breaking process where He broke me, and I realized, hey, we'll see 1,000 customers a week in this thrift store. What an opportunity to love on them in the name of Jesus. And the Lord just kind of transformed my mind, my heart. And I remember one day I was serving in the thrift store. It was a Saturday morning, and I was reading my Bible. I was running the register. I was the store manager, but I was running the register. And a lady came in, and she was asking why we didn't charge sales tax as a thrift store. And I explained to her, well, in the state of South Carolina, you don't have to charge sales tax as a nonprofit. And I explained to her all about the mission and what we do. Even though I was working in the thrift store, I wasn't working in one of the rescue missions or addiction recovery or foster care at the time. And she seemed to appreciate my comments, and we had a nice exchange, and she left. Well, a couple of weeks later, my boss's boss called me and said, "Hey, did you speak to this woman, so-and-so?" He said her name. And I said, "I don't think so. Did I offend her? Did I upset her? What did I say?" And he said, "No, you spoke to her about sales tax." I said, "Oh yeah, I remembered, And he goes, she's the chair of the board of Miracle Hill. And it was the coolest experience. You never know who you're entertaining. And she just happened to be in shopping that day. But I think the Lord used that and a couple of other encounters to move me into different positions within this organization. And so I came over into donor relations a couple of years after that, and have just worked in it ever since. And the Lord's just kind of moved me through this organization. And after my predecessor retired, I moved into this position about 5 years ago now.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and you don't know how you got here sometimes. My experience, though, has been, if you have a servant's heart and you're humble and you love people, and you're really content wherever the Lord would have you, that sometimes He puts people like that in positions of leadership, and I'm fortunate enough to be in that position,
That's phenomenal. And it's I'm always fascinated by corporate responsibility and finding what really speaks to you as an organization. When you're looking out for, and this is just coming off the top of my head, but when you're looking out for potential corporations to help Ministry Hill, is it like a carpet bombing approach where it's like, let's just ask everybody and see what happens? Or do you specifically target certain types of companies to help?
Maybe a combination of both. So when we have big events, we'll have like a Kids Ninja Challenge event where 450 kids are going to run this obstacle course, and there's a little bit of a press splash about it. We put out the call, hey, if you'd like to sponsor this event, great, because that goes back into operations. But the real corporations, the organizations that are really getting involved and woven in to Miracle Hill are those organizations that have kind of a like-mindedness, or hey, we exist for something greater than ourselves, or in Christendom, Christian business owners who are going, hey, this is not mine. I'm a steward of what God has given me, king and kingdom approach, But there's usually a missional connection. And then we get some corporate sponsorships through, the marketing opportunities for companies. But really, it's corporations that have a heart that matches the heart of this organization.
I like that. And I just to switch it over a little bit, and it's because I want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about this, because here's a question that I'm up in Portland, Oregon, and we have a homeless problem that's kind of exploded over the last, 5 or 6 years, where it's really gotten out of hand. And it's weird. It's almost like you could see the city changing a little bit. COVID obviously just exasperated that piece, along with other things. And so I have a lot of friends, and we talk about this situation. We all come up with kind of the same conversation, where it's like, this is terrible. People shouldn't have to live this way. And, you feel bad for the people in the houses that the homeless encampments kind of end up surrounding, and it looks like this giant problem. And so my question that we can't answer, that I'm wondering, and I don't expect you to answer it, but just to give us a better idea of, when it comes to someone going from a homeless situation to getting more secure housing, it's such a big problem. How does Ministry Hill take someone that's basically, at their rock bottom, and then get them to a place where they're back feeling good, taking care of themselves, and in a secure homing situation?
Yeah. Miracle Hill has an approach, like I think a lot of rescue missions across the country. And one, let me start by saying this. Usually, individuals who find themselves experiencing homelessness, there's a variety of reasons. Maybe it is some effect of the system, or maybe it is circumstantial. I met a guy at our one of our rescue missions while I was serving lunch a few weeks ago who told me, I said, "What's your story?" And he just started telling me. He said, 18 months ago, I was working at a restaurant in Florida that my friend owned, and I blacked out. I fell out while working in the restaurant, and they checked me. I had a brain tumor, and they removed it. And then they found a tumor in my neck, and they removed it. And I lost the ability to talk and walk and all this stuff. And you're like, what? Like, this guy, it wasn't necessarily addiction or mental illness, or it was purely circumstantial. And what was crazy is he had just relearned how to walk. This is a young man, maybe 40, and had given his wheelchair to another guest in our facility that week. And that's powerful, man. He, a believer too, who had recently come to Christ in his affliction. And anyway, that was circumstantial, but there is quite a bit of it that is, mental health. Quite a bit of it is addiction, or some combination thereof. And the truth is that it's not as easy as, people will say, kind of that old cliche, well, get a job, they need to get a job. And it's not really just that. That's one part of the combination. What we aim to do is, if we can get someone in the ship, we run 4 rescue missions. If we can get somebody in the rescue mission, and we can tell them, hey, first of all, you're loved. We love you. Second of all, we're going to hook you up with a counselor, and the counselor's aim is to triage. Immediately, you begin to triage, and it might be that the person has been waiting on disability, and they can't get disability because of X, or they've never had an ID, and you can't get this without an ID. Or if you think about all the obstacles that someone who doesn't actually have a place they call their own faces, like, for a lot of things, you need a permanent address. You need mail to prove you live somewhere so that you can. So just having that, can you imagine living in a tent and trying to get a job when you don't have a physical address?
Right.
So it's holistic, and the tough part is that, really the way our culture and society is set up, you're not capable of doing all these things with someone in your home. You could take somebody in your home and do it, but the challenges are great. And so these rescue missions that have full-time staff devoted to, hey, you're going to meet with the counselor today, and we're going to assess your situation. Hey, how can we expedite your disability process? If you can't afford housing because you can't save up money because you're living in a hotel room and it's cost you 5 times more than it cost me to pay my mortgage each month, how do we address that? Live here, save money here, work a job here. Like, it's a long game. It's not, someone waking up and winning the lottery and everything's okay.
Right.
Usually there are a lot of issues. And amongst those, sometimes it is addiction or mental health. And we want to get them to the place where they can get help with that life dominating issue.
That's amazing. And, it's so tough because it's easy to dehumanize, I think, this group. They're at risk, and, it's easier to look away than to see someone suffering like that. And so that's why your organization's so important, is that, you got to have someone reaching a hand to give someone a hand up.
Yeah.
To get out of there. Do you find that the people that are coming through the program, does it stick? I guess that's the biggest thing. It seems like that everybody would want that. And are they able to give back? Do you find a lot of volunteers come through the program, or are they coming from all over?
Yeah, that's kind of a multi-layered question.
Yeah.
One, I think everybody wants that. That's not true. There are some people that are totally content living in that tent, under that bridge, under that, in their car. There are people that are certainly content doing that, and content not coming into a rescue mission, because within rescue missions, usually there's accountability. You're not able to just stay intoxicated, or you can't, the pain or whatever they're going through, sometimes that accountability rubs up against that. And they would rather live in a car than get help and see life change. But for those who do walk it out, we see a lot of success. We see a lot of people who come out the other end, and for goodness sakes, our chief executive officer here, he was at one point experiencing homelessness, went through our addiction recovery program twice over a decade ago. And so nobody can look at him and go, you don't understand. He does understand. But so a lot of people make it out, and a lot of people end up, if they go through our recovery program, especially, kind of wanting to hang back and become, get a position in this organization where they can give back too. So we see a lot of people do really well, and sadly we see quite a bit of recidivism as well. So I was serving lunch on Monday at one of the missions, and I saw a guy that I've known here for 10 years, man. And he came through the line and he said, "Hey, you remember me?" And every time we see each other, he says, "Hey, you remember me?" And I say, "Yeah, I remember you." And he'll say my name and I'll say his name. And but he has clearly been dealing with this issue for a long time. He'll get it together, and then he'll kind of just slip back into this pattern. And I think some of that is to be expected, and especially if there's some mental health. So one of our priorities here, one day in our area, is to have more what we call SROs, or single resident occupancies. Like we want to have places where people who maybe have mental health issues, or they'll never maybe get married or have a family, but they need a place that's affordable to live in. We want to see more of that popping up so we can have more shelter exits.
Right. And I've seen, and this is completely off the subject, this is something that I saw, but I've seen some of those tiny home villages where it's that are popping up, and with real estate, it's crazy. I don't care who you are, getting into a house, getting into an apartment is just, it's so much money. And like you said, it's background checks and all these different things. Do you see that as a viable solution? Could we see these like tiny home living villages popping up and being a conduit to getting people to a more secure place? Is that kind of the next step, or where do you see the next step going?
Yes. The answer is yes. And also, we need transitional homes. So that's one of the reasons we have these transitional homes, where it's, hey, this is a stop along the way. And so we see some organizations using those tiny homes like transitional homes, right? Like they're not your permanent residency, but they're long-term temporary residence. So I think the answer is it's going to have to be a combination of all of those things. But we do, if tiny houses are the affordable option, there are going to be dozens of people lining up going, "Hey, I'll take a tiny home. I don't mind."
Right.
So yeah, we have some people around us who are doing that as well. I was talking with our CEO the other day, and one of the challenges is that even what they're calling affordable housing, when you're talking about median incomes of households, when you're looking at affordable housing, a lot of the folks who may come through a mission, if they're working hourly jobs and they're like, even at what's called affordable housing, like a lot of our people are below 50% of the MDI, and so it's still not really affordable for them.
Right.
And there are some organizations that are trying to get those prices down, but it's expensive. And I think that's been a byproduct of COVID and supply chain issues, and with the value of homes being pumped up through the roof, the thought of someone coming in or a corporation coming in going, hey, we're going to build affordable housing for these people, they're going to lose the shirt on their back. Like, it's not a money-making business,
right.
Which I think a lot of people aren't doing it. It's certainly, which kind of puts it in the world of nonprofits.
Right.
You're going to lose money on it,
Right. But God, it's just so important. And I mean, going back to that piece, you guys have the auto sale project, you have the Kids Ninja Challenge, you have a monster annual fundraising banquet that you guys do every year. Tell us about how, and you have 4 kids on top of that. With all these programs, what are you looking for? Does this always change? Do you have kind of a locked-in set of programs that make Miracle Hill successful, or are you always trying new things? Tell us about your programs, what you like about them, and what maybe is coming up next.
So when you're saying programs, you're meaning kind of those events like that?
Yeah. How do you generate the revenue for Miracle Hill?
Yeah, so most of our revenue is actually not generated through the events. The events are amazing because they're big splashes. One of the other events that we do is the state's largest turkey fry down here. We fry over 600 turkeys, and about 5,000 people will be fed the week of Thanksgiving, and it is a it is a messy event, and I love it. Every year it kicks off the start of the holiday season, right. But it's not just raking in money. Now we do have sponsors, and it might rake in, by the end, $100,000 or something like that, which is amazing. That's life-altering money. But the majority of the resources for this organization comes through donors from individuals, corporations, foundations, but primarily individuals. Wow. I love that quote, many hands make a light load.
Yep.
And the one of the things we've been trying to do is just build more and more sustaining donors or monthly donors who go, hey, sign me up for $50 a month or $10 a month. We've got some sustaining donors that they give $1,500 a month, and they serve 20 hours a week in the rescue mission. Special human beings, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so that's really how we generate the majority of the revenue. But the 3 big events that we have are the Turkey Fry, this Kids Ninja Challenge, where 450 kids will run an obstacle course, and it's a peer-to-peer event. So, grandparents and parents and friends of family and church members can sponsor these kids to run this obstacle course. That has really taken off in the last few years. It's an amazing event. Kids age 4 to 12 can run in that. That brings in quite a bit for the ministry and new donors. It's about getting the message of Miracle Hill out. We've existed for over 80 years here in the upstate, and still we're a mystery to a lot of the people that may be moving to the area or have lived here all their lives and just don't know what we do.
That's amazing. And if there are people out there, and this is a global organization with TALRadio. We're actually there's a base out of India that has a group, and this goes everywhere. So I'm going to ask a broad question, then we're going to narrow it down. In a broad way, if you are someone that's like, I want to help the homeless population in my town here locally. Yes. If it were you, how would you go about doing it? What's the best way to make sure that those dollars that you're putting towards something are going to the right place? Yeah.
Well, one, if there is an existing rescue mission in your area, I would say point people to that and give to that if it's a reputable organization. If no such thing exists in your area, there's a resource that I would point people to called City Gate Network. Citygate Network is the national association of all these rescue missions, of gospel rescue missions in particular. And it's there are thousands of people will come to a convention annually to exchange ideas, talk about how are we serving our guests, how do we give people world-class treatment in a world that's not the norm. But not only we just had a meeting in San Antonio this year, and the executive director of this association of Citygate, he had run into a guy in Scotland who runs the Glasgow Rescue Mission, and that guy was there in San Antonio. And so I think there's even this international almost component that I think is coming. But that's who I would reach out to, because they're armed with resources. There are all kind of retired CEOs and soon to retire CEOs who their job is to now. Our former CEO, he literally goes to different areas that are considering starting up small nonprofits and coaches them on how to do it. So you could reach out to us and I could connect you with him. His name is Reed Lehman, or you could reach out directly to Citygate. That's what I would encourage people to do, is give to a reputable organization in your area, or consider starting one. That's perfect. And then to bring it in a little bit tighter, when it comes to Miracle Hill, what kind of volunteer opportunities are there? How can someone help? Where can one volunteer? And a little bit about what they might expect to do. Yeah, we have all kinds of volunteer opportunities, ranging from, providing transportation for guests who need to get to, driving the bus and dropping people off at their jobs in the morning, something like that, or taking people to medical appointments, providing medical transportation for them to get to their doctor's office, things like that. We need individuals who are willing to come and provide breaks at our reception desks at various shelters. Stuff like that, to sorting food. There's all kind of opportunities. And the way that we promote that is on our website. If you go to miraclehill.org, you can click on the How You Can Help tab. And when you click on volunteer, our volunteer needs really populate kind of like a shopping list. You can look on there and go, hey, I'm off on Mondays and I want to serve. And you can go see what opportunities are available for you that might fit your schedule. So there are all kind of opportunities. And then we have those event opportunities like the turkey fry, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. If someone even if they're from North Carolina or Georgia or wherever, they can come here. It's still, if they signed up and volunteer to serve at our turkey fry, or at another event. But you'll see those on our website, miraclehill.org. Yeah. That's awesome. I really appreciate the time that you gave us and some of that background. It's just really inspiring. And again, it's part of the reason that I love doing this job, is that finding people that are actually helping the community. That's what we're here for. And that's what we like to hear about. So thanks for joining us today, sharing your story. You guys are doing a great job out there, and we really appreciate having you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Ken.